Back to you and get the strategy going. Management at HDFC Bank is at the presser.
Okay, so what is basically on the base reduction? I mean, frankly, it shouldn't take too much time.
Yeah, we'll start.
Sure. Sorry, okay. Yeah, good morning. We are happy to confirm that our base rate has been reduced by 10 basis points from 9.8% to 9.7%. As you're aware, the base rate calculation is required to be reviewed every quarter. So our ALCO reviewed this for this quarter last week, and factoring in the slight reduction in fixed deposit rates as well as the CRR reduction we had seen earlier in the quarter, on a cumulative basis the calculation has thrown up the base rate reducing to 9.7%, and that's what the base rate will be effective today. We'll be happy to give any clarifications or answer any questions that you might have.
So how much has the cost of funds basically moved? If we compare with quarter and quarter, because quarter is ending today.
Sure. So
quarter and quarter, how much reduction have you seen in the cost of funds?
See, the base rate calculation is not based on an overall cost of funds calculation. It covers a couple of fixed deposit tenors which are specifically included in the calculation. It also includes the grossing up of the cost of our deposits by the CRR and SLR, and there's a small influence of the policy rates as well. So our overall reduction in interest rates and our overall reduction in cost of funds would be something which should happen gradually over a period of time, because it's not only for those tenors but across several tenors.
So ये माने कि आपने कोई anticipation नहीं रखा है कि आगे rate cut होंगे, उसके लिए आप पहले से तैयारी नहीं कर रहे हो, जब भी rate cuts होंगे आप फिर उसको pass on करेंगे?
हाँ, because जो calculation होता है उसका it's not something which gives you a chance to do something proactively, because there are specific rates which we include in the calculation, and the whole idea of transmission is कि जैसे जैसे rates change होते हैं deposit costs के deposit rates, या तो फिर CRR या SLR में कुछ बदलाव आता है, तो the impact of that gets translated into the rates on the base side.
So we can understand that we are moving now towards a softer interest rate scenario, because RBI also in its October policy had given a guidance that looking forward, if we see the inflation numbers sliding down, then we could move towards a more softer interest rate scenario. Are we seeing that situation coming in?
Yeah, I think the general anticipation is that there will be a reduction in policy rates in the Jan to March quarter, whether it happens in 2 tranches of 25 or otherwise. I think most participants in the market, most banks believe that there will be a 50 basis points reduction in policy rates in that quarter. But that by itself, is not enough, because ultimately the major impact on base rates for almost every bank will be the deposit costs which are included in that calculation. So in conjunction with what happens to policy rates, depending on what's the liquidity situation, I guess banks would react in terms of reducing their deposit rates, and it's only when the deposit rates are reduced, then that plus the policy rate changes will translate into further rate reductions on the lending side. So I think it's a combination of the liquidity scenario. As you're aware, right now the total borrowings under LAF are almost 1,40,000. I would be surprised if banks feel comfortable dropping deposit rates if the borrowings are as high as that. So if by that time you do have a reduction in the LAF borrowings, perhaps somewhere closer to 60-70,000 crores, then perhaps banks may be comfortable dropping deposit rates, taking a cue from the policy rate changes, and then that in turn should help essentially sort of the trend of declining interest rates.
So after the base rate cut, do we also see some following it by the deposit rate, even in the selected tenures?
Not right now. I think you have seen the last few months some reduction in deposit rates, especially if you look at the 1-year rates, for instance, they were well above 9%. Now they're about 8.75. But at this point of time, I don't see a further reduction in deposit rates. As I said, till the liquidity scenario, in terms of the overall banking system, liquidity scenario is a little more comfortable. As you know, again, if you look at the last deposit growth rate numbers which have come out, they have dropped pretty sharply. So, in such a scenario, I'm not sure banks will be comfortable dropping deposit rates any further.
So what kind of credit growth have you seen in the past quarter or so? And I mean, is it more a factor of you requiring to bring down rates to push credit growth that we're seeing this kind of factor?
Not really. As you can imagine, I'm not going to be able to talk to you about any numbers. It's just a couple of weeks down the line that we can declare our results and we can talk about that. But as I said, in the whole transmission mechanism, which is now a part of the base rate calculation, really leaves very little flexibility, or just as you can't be proactive, you can't be reactive, and you sort of do that in that very quarter. So as far as our loan growth is concerned, I mean, has the reduction in rate been necessitated by that? I don't quite think so. It's just a reflection of the slightly lower overall cost of funds, including, as I said, the cost of maintaining reserves, and that essentially being passed on as per the calculation that the bank has in place.
So most banks right now are still waiting for the RBI policy, and then probably they'll take a call on cutting the rates. But so what's the rationale behind cutting it right now, before the policy also? And post the policy, is it, can we say that HDFC Bank will not be taking a call on any, rates in case RBI cuts the repo rate?
No, I think I'll be sort of in some ways reiterating it. Every quarter we do review the base rate calculation. So in fact, we had first dropped our base rate from 10 to 9.8 in the first quarter of the year. That was based on whatever reductions we had seen at that point of time in both reserves and the deposit rates. In the second quarter, which was the September quarter, we had reviewed the calculation and nothing had changed. And now, based on whatever has happened so far, in terms of deposit rates reductions, as well as the marginal 25 basis points reduction that we saw in October end, I think, in CRR, this calculation is done. So it's not trying to say that, because if there is any further change in policy rates or reserve requirements or deposit rates, whenever we review this in the next quarter, that would come through in the calculation. So, it does not mean that, we would not do it or we would do this in anticipation. Again, whatever the numbers come out in the quarter ended March, in the next quarter, we would review that at that point of time.
So what would be the impact on NIMs?
At this point of time, I'm not going to be commenting on the P&L impact. I'll be happy to take those questions, when we sort of declare our quarterly results. As you can imagine, in any case, this is effective 31st of December, so certainly it could not have impacted the NIMs for the quarter that has ended. Going forward, I'll be happy to sort of clarify this, with our quarterly results.
So, can you give us some outlook on the credit growth? Because from April to December, we have seen non-food credit growth of little under 5%. So can you give us some outlook for the calendar year 2013? What is the credit growth that HDFC Bank is expecting?
Well, I can just say that on a year-on-year basis, we still believe that for the full year, the banking system growth will probably still be somewhere in that 15.5% to 16.5% sort of range. Again, that's based on certain assumptions in terms of what we ultimately see as GDP growth. And, we have traditionally said that we would grow a little faster than that. I think that basic outlook remains unchanged.
क्या आपने कुछ खास लोन्स के स्प्रेड भी चेंज किए हैं? जो बेस रेट चेंज का असर है वो डिफरेंट लोन्स पे क्या पड़ेगा?
नहीं, at this point of time कोई spread में change नहीं किए हैं. If you look at most of the retail loans, they are not really base rate linked, but they are fixed rate loans. और अगर आप देखें तो in the last couple of months, with the festive season and so on, there has been some reduction. Maybe in fact in some products 25 to even 50 basis points reduction in the retail lending rates. So that has happened independent of the base rate change, which has happened only in December right now. Really reflecting the market conditions and also trying to make these loans a little more attractive, especially in the festive season. So in conjunction with the base rate change right now, there really isn't any change in spreads that we have announced. नहीं जो हाँ शायद जो मार्केट ने देखा है जो रिडक्शन हुआ है पिछले कुछ हफ्तों में या शायद 1-2 महीनों में वो शायद it's catching the attention of the market a little more now.
When you were talking on the deposit rate, just one clarification, you mentioned that the overall banking industry.
All right, that's the management at HDFC Bank talking about the rationale for reducing the base rate by 10 basis points to 9.7% from 9.8%. The stock price right now is down 0.25%, 676. We'll take a very quick break on that note. We'll be right back.